Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. I'm your host, Hope Pedraza, and because this space is all about uncovering the truths about health and wellness and your purpose and living in alignment with that purpose, I wanted to dive into something a little more personal today, and something that I know that everybody listening or watching can resonate with. And it's all about what I wish I knew about my health 10 years ago. And I could say 10 to 20 to 30 years ago, like my entire life. And I wanted to share some of that with you. And while I could probably spend hours and hours talking about what I wish I knew and what I would tell my younger self, now I'm going to distill it down so that I'm not here for hours talking about this. But I think this episode will resonate with a lot of people. It comes straight from the heart, and it's just a reflection of my own journey, my struggles, my misconceptions, my misguided attempts at being quote unquote healthy, right? The hard-earned lessons that have not only shaped me and my own personal journey, but also my approach to health and how I help other women and people, just humans in general, help them on their journey and being able to follow my own purpose and helping others. So grab a cup of tea and get cozy and let's learn together, because like I said, I think that a lot of these will resonate with you and you will be nodding your head and agreeing with a lot of these. But my journey, and if you've listened to me interview in other episodes, I've shared a lot of this journey of my journey, and I've shared it on here as well. There's a series I did last year. I think it was the year before last. The years all start to run together. And I shared a lot of my journey. But when it comes to like specifically about my health journey, I mean, I could say even 10 years ago, right? Even 10 years ago in my 20s, I thought I knew what health was, right? Even beginning my journey as a functional practitioner, right? There's still, I mean, it's that life is a continuation of good, consistent learnings. But 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? I believed the messages that I grew up hearing, right? I grew up in diet culture, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that, growing up in diet culture and what that was like, and hearing the messages of eat less, work out more, shrink your body, right? And it was do all of this at any cost, at all cost, right? And when you grow up in diet culture and you're just bombarded, not that we're not bombarded with stuff today, but I do think that a lot of the information is trending, and a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is trending in a different direction. But growing up in this diet culture, I was conditioned to see health, using air quotes here, health, as a number on the scale or a number of calories on your plate, right? That was the extent of health. And it wasn't just about food or fitness for me. Now, this is not true for everybody. This is not everybody's story. But for me, it wasn't just about the food or the fitness. It was this identity, right? It was tied to my worth, this being healthy, right? The number on the scale, the number of calories on my plate, how many calories I could burn when I'm working out, like all of that was tied to my worth. And what I didn't realize was that how dysfunctional and disordered this way of thinking was, and how it affected not just my body, but my mind and my soul. I developed these disordered eating behaviors, right? Not in the clinical sense of like diagnosed eating disorder, but disordered eating behavior, which is now a term just used for more broad behavior, right? This kind of obsessive compulsive behavior that so many of us normalize, and especially back in, diet culture days, like the 90s, the early 2000s, where it was just normalized, this obsessive compulsive behavior. And today, I think that's also tied with this term called orthorexia, which I have a gal coming on in a couple months. I think it's in March, coming on to talk about orthorexia and what that is. But it's just kind of this obsession with healthy eating that leads to disordered eating behaviors. And so I think that this gets normalized for a lot of us, consistently, constantly counting calories. And I want to say this too, as kind of a disclaimer. None of these behaviors that I'm talking about are inherently bad in and of themselves, because counting calories can be a good thing for a lot of people, but it's your relationship with that. And that's why with a lot of my clients, I have them send a few days of an eating journal just so I can get an idea of what they're eating. And typically it's like, well, you're not eating enough, but I want to just get an idea of what they're eating. And for some of my clients, when we're talking about protein and getting enough protein and these kinds of things, it's hard for me to get an idea if I don't know what they're eating now. They don't have a baseline. And so with some of them, I even suggest, okay, why don't we track our macros for a handful of days or whatever it is to see where we are. And I do that with caution and do that with care and I do that with great intention because I know that even that behavior of tracking things in an app can become obsessive compulsive for people, especially if we have a history of that kind of thing. So I just wanted to say this disclaimer of like, a lot of these behaviors I'm talking about are not inherently bad in and of themselves, but it's the energy and the intention behind them, which is true about everything. I have lots of episodes about energy and I have some other episodes coming up, but I think that's a really important distinction about anything. It's the intention behind it. We can make anything quote bad or evil or whatever. It's the intention behind it. So if the intention behind tracking your calories or working out to burn a certain amount of calories or get a certain amount of steps or whatever, if this is all in kind of okay, I'm getting healthier. I want to track things. I want a baseline. I want metrics. Some people just like metrics or those analytical type people, like they like empirical data to look at. But when it becomes obsessive, compulsive, and now that's all we think about, we're changing our habits so that we are changing our habits and our mindset around it, where it becomes something that is um, consumes our thoughts and behaviors, right? This is when it becomes a problem. So anyway, that was a tangent, but I feel like I needed to say that. So going back to these things that are kind of normalized, right? In diet culture and just culture in general, right? We have these diet norms that we consider as normal, right? Counting calories. But then it turns into not just counting calories, but it's counting calories and comparing how many calories you're eating to this person or this fit person you see on the internet that's talking about how many calories they eat. Constantly comparing yourself to others, chasing that next quick fix to feel good about yourself. Trying the diet pill and that diet pill and this diet tea and this detox tea. I tried all the diet teas and detox teas and all. I mean, oh my gosh. So that was a thing. But what I know now is that these behaviors really and truly weren't about food at all. They were about these deeper wounds around self worth and perfectionism and this constant need to prove I was quote unquote enough. And I talk about this. There's an episode that came out just recently where I interviewed with Brooke on the Unperfected podcast. And I talk about this in greater detail. Now, my perfectionism and type A personality really did lend to my eating behaviors and disordered eating behavior. And again, it's not even about the food. And that you can say that with any eating disorder, which is again, this is a rabbit hole I don't really want to go down, but you can say that without it, right? It's not about the food itself. And there's a ton of root cause whys, right? That around disordered eating behaviors and eating disorders and all of that. But the point is here that the deeper wounds within myself, and these were, societal wounds societal conditioning, cultural conditioning, family conditioning, and also I think there's a lot of generational stuff that pops up too, especially with women around self-worth, perfectionism, the constant need to prove yourself and prove enough. I'm sure if you're listening, you can resonate with this. Maybe it's not something you're dealing with now, but you have in the past. Maybe it's something that creeps up every now and then. But as women, these are very common inner wounds that we have to deal with in this life. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of women never deal with those and they go through their entire life with these beliefs and these patterns running the subconscious programming in your body and never really feel good about themselves and feel worthy and feel right that they're just chasing one thing after another. So for me, of course, I didn't know this at the time. And even I would say, even probably 10 years ago, I was still coming to the realization about these things.
But looking back, I wish, I wish I could tell my younger self that health is so much more than how many calories you're eating or how many calories you're burning or how much you're exercising or how long you're exercising. And I wanted to share some of the misconceptions, if you will, that I had and what I've learned since. And like I said, there's a million of these. I want to distill these down just to a few like big, basic, high level concepts here. And I would love for you to share yours. If you want to share them, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to share it there, if you want to share on social media or email, I'd love to hear yours too, because I love, man, I love hearing the journeys of other people. I love hearing like the comeback stories and the wisdom learned stories. So I would love to hear yours. But I want to share some of the big ones for me and hopefully some of these resonate with you. And maybe it's something you're learning now, or after I mention it, you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. I can learn from that. So, the first misconception, and I do think that society now is doing a better job of getting this message across. But the conception I had years ago was that health is all about calories in, calories out, right? That was the standard, like the metric. And I used to believe that weight loss or being quote unquote skinny, right, was just a simple math equation. It was just about the calories in and the calories out. So there were periods of eating very little calories. There were periods of lots and lots and lots of working out to burn off whatever calories were eaten. There were periods of oh, I ate more on the weekend. So now, man, I'm going to have to punish myself on Monday to burn those off, right? There's patterns playing over and over and over and over and over again. And I think a lot of you listening or watching now know that this is not really the case. This is not as simple as that. And I know now as a functional practitioner that this is so much deeper than that. And this really is why I went the path that I did to further my education work with people, because when I first started, even just starting out as a health coach, I was working with women. That's what they were coming to me like, oh, I just want to drop 5 pounds or 10 pounds or however many pounds. And that was really the extent of it. And when working with these women and understanding what's happening in their body, I'm recognizing, okay, these issues require deeper conversations than just talking about calories and macros. Right? This isn't just a calories in, calories out conversation. There's deeper things happening, right? There's hormonal imbalances and thyroid issues and gut issues and emotional issues. There's trauma that's in that. Like there's all these things. And so now I think we can recognize hormones and mineral imbalances and stress and sleep all play this immensely massive role in how our bodies function. And it's not just about controlling calories. It's not just about calories in, calories out. It's about supporting your body holistically. If it was just as easy as calories in, calories out, I think there would be so many less people, so many less people who are dealing with obesity and metabolic syndrome and all these issues. And I mean, do you know, if you only knew the number of women that I talk to that tell me, I'm doing everything, I'm dieting, I'm watching my calories, I'm eating clean, I'm exercising. And most of them actually are doing all of those things, right? There are so many women out there, you listening, this might be you doing all the things, but the scale isn't moving a dang inch, right? It's not moving at all. And so my point is, if it was just as simple as calories in and calories out, we'd all be fit and thin and all the things we want to be. We want our bodies to look, but it's not that simple. And I think for me, understanding that it's a more complex conversation, it's a more complex issue, and not to overcomplicate it. I don't want to do that either, to make it like, oh, you're never going to figure it out because it's all these things. But I think it's important to understand that it is more complex, right? We have to take into account hormones, and we also have to take into account our energy. I have an episode about this that I'll get to later, and I have one that already came out talking about energy, but I have another one. And I think the energy piece, as some might not consider it conventional, tying that conversation into health or weight loss or anything around that conversation. The energy piece is huge. And I think there's so many and when I say energy, it's, your environment, what you're putting in, the people you're around, your energy in terms of your emotional health. And this is also, the environment you grew up in and what you've been exposed to growing up and traumatic experiences. All of these things play a part in how our bodies function. And it affects the whole metabolism, calories in, calories out part. All of this plays a part. So again, just going back to what the actual learning of this is, understanding that this is just more complex than calories in, calories out. And we have to really understand that health, using more quotes again, health is about supporting your body holistically. And it's not just about the food, and it's not just about food and food out and burning calories. Misconception number 2 is that I feel like a lot of y'all will understand this one, but more is better, thinking that more is better. And I cannot tell you how many years, it's a lot, how many years I pushed my body to the limit. Over exercising, under eating, repeat. Over exercising, under eating, repeat, right? For years. And I can see that now in hindsight, right? I can recognize the years where I was getting injured all the time. And I was running marathons for a while, thinking I was fueling right and all that. No, definitely not. Getting injured all the time, sick all the time, moody. I mean, there's so many things. But just thinking that more is better. Just keep pushing, and the more calories you burn, it's got to do something, right? No. I understand now, obviously, the importance of rest, nervous system regulation, working with your body rather than against it, and working with your energy rather than against it, which is why I love tying in the energy work that I do, human design, all of those pieces, so that the women I work with also understand how to work with their body and not against it. And this is especially true for women whose bodies are so deeply connected to their natural rhythms and natural cycles, their hormonal cycle, their energy cycle, right? There's so many rhythms. I had a whole episode about this, the chronobiology part, and I've talked and the energy part, the episode about energy, but just understanding that we all have our own energy, we all have our own cycles, and learning how to work with those. I did a workshop. I guess at this point it's been a couple weeks, but I did it for a local group here in town. It's for this working moms group, and we talked about hormones and talked about just what it looks like to really honor your natural cycles and your natural rhythms. And what does it look like for us to completely shift from this masculine paradigm of work, 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 push, 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 sleep when you're dead kind of thing, and going into more of the feminine paradigm where we can work with our cycles, our hormonal cycles, and our natural rhythms of life. Because here's the other thing, even for beings who don't run on a 28-day hormonal cycle like women, like even men run on a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Even for men, just life in general, life is all about cycles and rhythms, right? Life is never linear, ever. Like that's not a thing. Life is not linear. Now, there's ups and downs along the way, but we want upward trajectory. That's a tough one. All the way, but it's not straight up all the way, right? There's dips and loop-de-loops, and as we're going up, we're doing all these other things, but it's never linear. And so I think that when we can just accept that fact, it's a fact of life, that we can be okay honoring our natural cycles and rhythms and not feed into this narrative that more is better, and pushing and forcing and pushing yourself to do more is better. And that there always has to be productivity and efficiency. It's just, we're not meant to do that. Even regardless of what energy type you are in human design. Now, I know generators and many gens listening, like, yes, we as generator beings are meant to do more. We have energy to do more, but it's still not always and forever, right? You're still a human. So there are still cycles and rhythms to all of this. And so I think this is tying into this learning about more is better, just in multiple ways, right? It's not just about the exercise and the eating part, but just in multiple ways, and knowing that doing and being productive, all of this is supposed to come in cycles and rhythms. And this is how we grow and evolve as humans. And this is how we build a body that's resilient and that can withstand tough situations and things that we're meant to deal with. So the rest, the nervous system regulation, the working with your body, all of these things, this is the big learning. And I think that the more of us women that can really feel this truth in our body, that we can get rid of the burnout for good, right? The burnout, the overworking, and the overwhelm, the anxiety that so many women feel, the pressure, the stress, the pressure, all of that. Like this is the antidote for that. So leaving that right there. Misconception number 3, the third one I want to mention. And this is that the misconception that health looks the same for everybody. And I talk about this all the time, right? There is no one size fits all approach for anybody. And diet culture, if you grew up in I mean, really, it's probably the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. It was a chunk of time. And I mean, even now, there's plenty of people that still think if it worked for me, it's working, it can work for everybody. And so many people buy into that because they've got these crazy transformation stories. And you see these before and after pictures like, holy cow, I want that. Whatever she did, give me that. But it doesn't always work like that. Not saying it can't, but it doesn't always work that way. And I think when I find, again, this is a big revelation I had too when I started my just basic health coaching. And recognizing I'm, working with macros and customizing these parts, but my approach was a more one size fits all kind of thing. But then seeing that these women all need different things, you can't give them a size fits all approach, one size fits all protocol. And the other thing that plays into this is human design. And what human design has taught me that we are all wired so differently and so uniquely. And I think even just that piece, understanding how unique we were all designed, is all the reason you need everything you need to know to understand the one size fits all thing. It just doesn't work. Your energy type, your authority, your defined centers, your undefined centers, all these pieces in your chart, all of these play a part in how your body thrives, how your energy is flowing through your body, your health, your it just it looks different for everybody. And I think going back to what I was saying about environment and energy, all of that plays a part too. And so like kind of like the calories in, calories out thing, it's not that simple. And so the one size fits all thing, it's just not that simple, right? You have people who will do the exact same diet and workout plan and have completely different results. Why? Because everybody is different. Their metabolism is different. Their hormones are different. The environment that they were brought up in looks different. Their generational trauma that they've brought into this world is different. So their cells operate different. Like there's so many nuances to this, and it affects everything. So for us this is one I think that fires me up the most because I still see it playing out on social media and the media and the things of people have, again, like I said, people have these crazy transformation stories. I did this and I lost this much weight, or I healed my autoimmune thing, whatever, and it can work for you. And it can, but not necessarily. And I think so often when we're looking for the answers, it's so easy to buy into that. Well, it will work for her. It's got to work for me because we want an answer. We want to fix, and we want to fix it now. We want the answer. And I think that this is part of the journey that we're here to take. Like I think part of the journey is it's all about the learnings, right? I firmly believe that we are put on this planet for our soul to gain wisdom and to learn. And I think that part of it is this learning what works for you and for your body and for your health. That's part of it. It's the learnings that this is the journey, right? This is what we're all supposed to figure out as we're going through this life. And so I think that by learning to tune into your body and understanding your body and going back to the whole rhythms and cycles things, like all of this is what we are meant to learn in this life. We're meant to understand how this vessel works that we were given to take us through life. And this whole one size fits all, everybody do these things. And I just think that's just a narrative that we really need to stop. Even with the biohacking stuff, right? I've had lots of people come on and talk about different aspects of biohacking. I've talked about it myself too. And again, none of this is a magic fix, but also like it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make you feel amazing if it made other people feel amazing. So this is a big one. And I think all of us, me, myself included, because I could play into that too. I see something like, oh, that has to work for me. I think we just really need to be careful about that narrative that it looks the same for everybody. So wrapping this up in a bow. And I often think about this, and maybe this is something you want to journal on afterwards, after you listen to this episode. If you could sit down with your younger self, what would you tell her? Right? What would you tell her about her health and her body? I challenge you. So if I could sit down with my younger self, here's what I would tell her. I would say first that health starts with self-love and self-compassion, and that was not a concept I was familiar with. I think the self-love kind of trendy boom thing that's been around for the past, I don't know, I feel a bit like it's been around for the past decade. I feel like it wasn't really a thing until the past decade. I think in the 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't a thing because it was all like, well, kind of like the more is better thing that I was talking about. You work out more and you work out harder and feel the burn and all that. So the self-love, self-compassion thing, I just think wasn't really a thing, at least not mainstream. And so I think this is a big one for me that I would want to tell myself. And it's understanding that no amount of calorie counting or clean eating or workout sessions can fix a fractured relationship with yourself. And that true healing starts when you stop punishing your body and start actually listening to it. This is a big one. Another thing I would tell myself is instead of looking for like the thing that's going to fix the thing, is understanding that mineral balance is foundational. And I love this piece. And you know that I love to nerd out on mineral balancing, but one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've had as an FDN, as functional practitioner, is understanding the role of minerals in the body and helping my clients with that and helping them understand the role of minerals in their body. And so many of the symptoms that I've struggled with over the years, fatigue, um, anxiety, digestive issues, immune issues, all of these things, all of these are rooted in imbalances that I had no idea existed. And the chronic dieting, of course, the chronic dieting had depleted me even further. It was probably a really magical combination of chronic dieting and birth control that I was on for years, right? This messes up so many things, minerals being the foundational piece. So I think I would tell myself that too, and understanding that part. And then something else is nervous system regulation, understanding the role that your nervous system plays in everything. I mean, nervous system regulation is crucial for everything. And the constant stress that I put my body under, whether it was overexercising, under eating, it just or just living in this like the perfectionist type A mindset puts you in fight or flight all the time. You were consistently in fight or flight. That's what the type A perfectionist does. And so it keeps you in survival mode because you're constantly thinking about, I've got to do everything perfect. And you're constantly thinking about, constantly worried about it. So it keeps you in fight or flight, keeps you in survival mode. So learning about my nervous system, learning about nervous system regulation has been, I mean, it's been completely transformational, life-changing, all of it. And it's why I incorporate things like energy healing and human design into my work now, because it's all about aligning your energy and calming your nervous system so you can truly heal. And I think when we put that part first, the nervous system piece first, so many of the other pieces fall into place. And I work with so many women who, which I get it. And I don't want this to sound judgy because there's no judgment at all. But they come to me and they want the fix and they want it now, which I totally get, especially when you're dealing with symptoms that are painful or affecting your everyday life. I get it. But the something I tell all of them, it's not always what they want to hear, is nothing is going to change, nothing is going to heal until you address your nervous system. And the nervous system, and it's tricky in some of these situations because sometimes their nervous system is caught up in what's going on in their physical body. So, you know, the lack of sleep gives you anxiety. Well, nervous system is dysregulated because of that. My gut issues affect, you know, how I'm showing up at work or in my business, whatever. And I've got anxiety around that. So my nervous system is, so there's kind of this loop, this never-ending loop that we're stuck in. And so I get that it's tricky, but you have to address the nervous system piece first, or no supplement or diet change or whatever is going to do anything. So the nervous system piece is crucial. And that's one thing younger self is to hone in, be more intentional with that first. And then I think the last thing I would tell my younger self, well, I would tell her lots of things, but for today, the last thing for today is that perfection is not the goal. Alignment is the goal, not perfection. And perfection is what is the lie that diet culture sells us, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. Perfection is what is what's sold to us. And it's this lie that the more you diet, the more perfect you're going to be, right? That's it. That's it. And I think when I started my own personal development journey and kind of my own spiritual journey, and especially learning about human design, I really realized the power of alignment. And I hesitate to use that word because it can get kind of fluffy and frou-frou and she. It doesn't, sometimes I think it loses its oomph, but I do think it's an important word right now in right now in this conversation. And I think it's about tuning in to what feels good for you, tuning in what feels good to your body, and then letting go of what doesn't. That's as simple as that. Whatever word you want to use to describe that, it doesn't have to be alignment if that word feels kind of whatever for you. But it's tuning in what feels good for you, and it's letting go of what doesn't. And this is a shift that can change everything for you. I mean, it changed everything for me. How's living my life, my health, all the things. But it's about alignment. It's what works for you. And like I said, I really believe this is part of the journey we're supposed to discover, is discovering what works for you. That it's part of the like joy of discovery. I think that part of what we're here to learn on this earth while we're here is God wants us to discover these things about ourselves and what works for us and what doesn't work for us, and to really peel back the layers of conditioning and societal whatever to get down to the core of us. Like, what feels good to me? What does my soul want? What does my body want? And I think that is the antithesis of what diet culture and things related to that. And I think that might be the biggest lesson I would tell my younger self, is stop worrying about everybody else when everybody else is doing. Stop worrying about how everybody else looks and what everybody else is eating and bleh, all that. And just focus on you. What works for you? What feels good for you? What doesn't? Learn about yourself. That's it. Learn about yourself. So if you're listening to this, maybe you feel stuck on your own health journey, or you feel maybe some of these things I'm talking about, you're still stuck in kind of that loop, those patterns. Here's what I want you to know. Health is about connection, and it's connection to your body, connection to your intuition, and connection to your energy. That's what health is. Health is not about calories in, calories out. Health is not about what I eat. Health is not about the workout that I'm doing. And it's not about any of that. It's about connection to your body, connection to your intuition and your energy. It's another lesson something I would have told my younger self. The other thing is, it's not about finding the perfect plan, the perfect protocol, the perfect routine, right? It's about creating a relationship with your body where you can trust what it's telling you. And I think that's the other thing, another lesson I would tell myself too, my younger self, is can you just freaking listen to your body for just 1 minute? And it's giving you all the signs you need. It's telling you everything you need to know. Because when we understand these parts, when we can have this relationship with our body where we can listen to it and understand the signals and the signs and all that, then we can trust it. We can make empowered decisions for ourselves. We know how to become the healthiest versions of ourselves. And it's not the healthiest versions in ourselves in terms of a perfectionist, like from a perfectionist perspective. It's the healthiest version of ourselves because we know that we can get more out of life. We can live a more fulfilling life when we are that healthiest version of us. And I think that's a big distinction that is kind of one of those big lessons that's coming to me right now while I'm talking about this is for a long time. And when you talk about orthorexia, you can Google that if you don't know what it is. But that's kind of the path that it takes you on. It's this perfectionist. Well, I've got to eat perfect and I can't eat these things. And you're fearful of groups of food and eating these things and doing this and doing that. And it's all up for to me, really, it's all about perfection. Where if you were to throw all that stuff out the window and just listen to your body and tune in and learn and to understand your body, then you can trust what it's telling you without having to see what the next expert guru is saying we should do for our health. You can understand what's correct for you. And that's what it is. It's not about the perfect plan and doing it perfectly. It's understanding what your body wants, what your body needs, what your body is telling you. The last thing I want to tell you that I know to be true is that healing is always possible. And it takes time, it takes patience, it takes grace, it takes a willingness to go deep and look beyond the surface level things that we might want to look at or that's like conventional ways would tell us to look at, but it's always possible. And I think just going back to the things that I just mentioned about listening to your body, building that relationship with your body, letting go of perfection, and and tuning into connection, right? Connection with your body, your intuition, your energy. That's what it takes. That's what makes healing possible for everybody. And I've had plenty of women come to me who have been told by practitioners or doctors that this is it, right? This is as good as it gets. This is the diagnosis, whatever. And they don't want that to be their truth. And I mean, you can look at so many transformational stories, not even just from me. I've got plenty of my own with clients I've worked with, but there's millions of them with other practitioners and doctors and people who have taken this on as their life's purpose to help people do this, like find the path to healing. And it's always possible. And when we can let go of societal norms and rules and all those things that dictate how we treat our body, what we do with our body, and really tune inward and go into that connection with ourselves, our intuition, our body, our energy. That's when the magic happens. That's when we can heal on every level, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That's where the healing happens. And so looking back now, while there were years where I tormented myself, and I mean, there's another podcast, Out of the Cave, I think that's what it's called, with the gal Lisa. I'll put links to these in the show notes if you want to go listen to it. But her journey is through, she had crazy serious eating disorders for years, patterns of binging and purging and stuff. But we talked on her podcast about the years that I spent tormenting myself and remembering specific like trips and vacations and outings where I couldn't even be present and enjoy what was going around me because all I could think about was what I had for breakfast that morning. What was I going to eat for lunch? Well, I'm not going to be able to work out today. So like, it was so focused on all of that crap. And so looking back now, I wouldn't trade the journey for anything. There's so much wisdom that I've gained and I'm able to help other people on their journey. And it's given me the passion and the knowledge, the wisdom to help other people. And I mean, it really is why I do what I do today, whether it's through functional labs or human design or energy healing, all these modalities that I use. It's led me here to talk to you and tell you about it. So I thank you. I thank you for listening and joining me on this episode. And if anything I shared resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message, leave a comment if you're watching this video, watching on YouTube, and leave a review, of course, to spread the word. And really, I would love to hear your learnings. If it's, especially if it's something that I didn't mention here today, I would love to hear yours. I love the comeback story. I love the big aha moments that you've had in your life. So send me those, send me an email, shoot me a message on Instagram or leave a message here on the video. And just remember that health is not about perfection. It's about learning. It's about growing. It's about creating a life that nourishes you, that nurtures you, and that feeds every part of you physically, mentally, emotionally. So going deep into that connection with yourself, that's where the healing comes from. And that's, to me, that's what health is about. That's what health is about, period. The end. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.